Namaskar, warm greetings from Delnet Developing Library Network, New Delhi, India, and Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, IIT Delhi. Distinguished Dr. Nabi Hassanji, the head librarian, IIT Delhi, the speaker, Dr. Vijay Kumar Verma, the assistant librarian selection grade at IIT Delhi, Shrikesh Kumarji, the president, Delnet, Dr. S.S. Murthy, the vice president, Dr. P.R. Goswami, treasurer, the officials and library team members from IIT Delhi, heads of institutions, including the directors, principals, deans, HODs, librarians and LIS professionals, computer and IT professionals, educational administrators, IQAC heads, faculty, researchers, scholars, and my colleagues at Delnet at New Delhi here, and also at its coordination units at Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Sangeeta Kaur, Director Delnet, on behalf of Delnet, New Delhi, and also on behalf of IIT Delhi, extends a very warm, hearty welcome to all of you for joining us today this afternoon for the webinar, which we are going to start shortly, which will be conducted by no one else other than our distinguished speaker, Dr. Vijay Kumar, on CORAL and open source electronic resource management. We extend a very hearty welcome to all of you for joining us, not only from different nooks and parts of India. We extend also a very special welcome and a warm welcome to our library and information science professional colleagues and many others from the field of computer science and IT who have been able to join us from different nooks and parts of the world, including from Afghanistan, Bhutan, Ghana, Ireland, Indonesia, Mali, Nepal, Nigeria, South Africa, Sri Lanka, and UAE. It's indeed, we are have felt truly humbled enough with a very overwhelming response to this webinar, where we have been able to see more than 2,000 professionals have been able to register for this. And indeed, it's very heartening for the organizers, both for Delnet as well as IIT Delhi, for the response and interest that you have shown in today's webinar. At the very outset, on behalf of Delnet, we would like to acknowledge the great support that IIT Delhi has been extending to Delnet, and yes, indeed, being spearheaded by Dr. Nabi Hassanji at IIT Delhi Library. He has been always so supportive and always trying to promote also the collaborations between Delnet and IIT Delhi. We remain truly thankful to you, Dr. Nabi Hassanji. Thank you so much for all the enormous support that you have been extending. It's always such a great honor and pleasure to organize our collaborative sessions, and also at the same time, the immense support that you have been extending, to Delnet over the years. So thank you so very much once again for joining hands with Delnet, making it possible for each one of us in being there this afternoon. It's a proud moment, for me to acknowledge the presence of our speaker, Dr. Vijay Kumar Verma, the Assistant Librarian Senior Grade at IIT Delhi, with whom have been seen, the one of the most energetic library professional and, a very committed young professional colleague who has been, because, we have been able to interact more with him as we do in our day-to-day work, for our interlibrary loan document supply, and us always having able to see a very proactive, a professional who is entirely being very committed, in serving the users, and very heartening to see that Dr. Vijay Kumar Verma is here today, this afternoon with us, who is going to tell you the most inspiring and success story of the implementation of CORAL and open source electronic resource management, what he has already done it at IIT Delhi Library, and each one of us feel really proud of him, for getting this thing done, and he has been the one who has been instrumental in getting it. Very hearty welcome to you, Dr. Vijay, and we are very, very happy that you have been able to, accede to our request in being there, and truly are appreciative of all the efforts that you have made, and also your own willingness, that's the open willingness that we talk about. We are into the world of openness, and it's so wonderful to see the professional colleagues who are coming forward, sharing their vast expertise and knowledge on the subject in order to ensure that each one of us, really feel inspired enough, and that there are many more takers. And that's the real wonderful part of being, in that open world. And when we think about embracing the open source technologies in the libraries and Open Mantra, advocating the use of Open Mantra, it's also the professionals who are really incredibly, contributing to it by being open enough in sharing their, great experience that they are able to acquire, through the implementation. So hearty welcome to you, Dr. Vijay, and it's indeed a pleasure to have you with us this afternoon. We would like to commence the session. We have a wonderful professional colleague and a wonderful, a person who has immensely been contributing to the library scene, not only in India, but at a global level. No one else other than Dr. Nabi Hassan, who has really been taking the IIT library to greater and greater heights. And it's truly a reflection of a committed professional who really believes in performing, in making it possible, and let others to follow, the very best practices that he's implementing, at IIT Delhi, one of the most distinguished, and a highly ranked institution of its own eminence, in a country like India. And also at a global scale, I'm very happy, Dr. Nabi Hassan, that he has also been helping, the IIT's other overseas, the campuses which are getting established. I was, having the other day, Dr. Hassan was interacting and mentioning about it, that how he's helping out, the other campuses, overseas campuses of IIT in establishing the state-of-the-art libraries. So it's indeed a profound honor and pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Nabi Hassan, and thank you so very much. You're always a person, to whom we hold you in very great admiration and respect, and the immense support that you have been offering to Delnet. There are no words to express how grateful we always feel for that. So it's a pleasure for me now to request Dr. Nabi Hassan to start the proceedings by giving an opening address at this occasion. It's over to you, Dr. Nabi Hassan Ji.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sangeeta. In fact, the benefit of working with Delnet is that I think we are at the same pace. Like, we have dynamic people like Dr. Sangeeta and her team there in Delnet, and we have almost same type of team here in IIT Delhi. So I think the power of IIT Delhi Central Library is that we have freedom to work. So all my colleagues are doing really great work in their different domains. In fact, you will be surprised to know that we have won the ORCID International Grant Award recently here in IIT Delhi. So I mean, this is the only, this will be the only center in India for ORCID activities, and my another colleague, Dr. Mohit Garg, has won this project, and we will be doing a lot of things in IIT Delhi. So in the same way, Dr. Vijay Kumar Verma has been experimenting with so many open source things, and the time he has taken over Electronic Resources Division of Central Library IIT Delhi, he has been contributing a lot, and he has been trying to explore new ways of providing better services to the users. So I think our power lies in the freedom to work. And of course, another thing is Dr. Sangeeta is also trying to do those things in her institution, is we have to take care of the people who are working very hard. So we have to motivate them, we have to take care of their career path, we have to take care of their benefits, and we have to give them the freedom, and we have to give them the due credit as well. So I'm really grateful to Delnet and Dr. Sangeeta that we have been collaborating. Earlier also we have hosted couple of smaller level events, but of course we want to have some in-person little bit large size event, so that I think we can interact with people in person, we can have better networking opportunity. And many of you who may not be knowing that we are one of the first members of the Delnet, if you see our membership number. And I think my colleagues told me, my senior colleagues Dr. Arora was here, he was the librarian of IIT Delhi. So I think many of the deliberations perhaps happened in IIT Delhi Central Library as well in this regard, in the initial stages with Dr. Kaul and other stalwarts. So I think with this background, I would like to appreciate Dr. Vijay, who has been working very hard implementing Coral, and also he has done PhD in this area as well under Professor Uma Kanjilal. So let's listen from Dr. Vijay himself, instead of like I'm explaining something. So thank you very much again, Dr. Sangeeta, for giving us the opportunity to collaborate with you. And I think this helps, this motivates us as well, and this gives energy to us that we can really contribute for the profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabi Hassanji, and thank you very much once again in reiterating, the association, a more than 3 decades association between Delnet and IIT Delhi. Yes, indeed, among the very first few who have been the believers in Delnet. And it's so wonderful to see that that trust and belief is, getting, with each passing day, it's getting more and more stronger. And we truly admire and appreciate, the contributions of your good self and also our wonderful colleagues at IIT Delhi who have really strengthening, you are able to concretize, our connections, and thank you so very much indeed. And thank you for sharing your, in fact, very valuable insights to today's webinar. Thank you very much, Dr. Nabi Hassan, once again. As all of us knows, as I said earlier, we are into the open world. It's an openness which really matters a lot in today's day and time. Each one of us are fully aware that how this open source technologies, it's not only the technologies, it's open source softwares, which have been, we have been talking about more than now 2 decades. We have an open access content, whether we are talking about open access e-journals or ebooks. We do have now the open publishing models, which are also now being there, whether we talk about a gold or a diamond and lot many of others, the green publishing models. And also at the same time, we also are the ones who believes in the open collaborations. Today is an opportunity to celebrate that also at the same time when 2 organizations, the institutions, who have joined hands together, believing, in the openness, in the open technologies. And here is an occasion when we are making use an humble attempt of ours, of the organizers, both Delnet and IIT Delhi, to make you acquainted with Coral, which is an open source electronic resource management tool, and that how each one of us in the libraries, you are spending crores and crores of your, of your expenditures that you are making on the electronic resource management, but we need to really keep ourselves more focused on resource discovery and resource delivery. And here are the tools which are available, which really helps you in the resource discovery. And Dr. Vijay is the best of the person, to make you acquainted about it. Profound honor and pleasure in introducing Dr. Vijay to each one of you, and very happy and pleased to inform you that Dr. Vijay Kumar, having a very good experience, as you could see, a very vibrant, young, enterprising, library professional colleague who is currently holding the position of an assistant librarian selection grade at the most prestigious Central Library of Indian Institute of Technology at Delhi. He has over 20 years of experience in the library and information services. Before his tenure here at IIT Delhi, he also worked at the other most esteemed institutions, including National Defense College, NDC, Ministry of Defense, Government of India. Dr. Verma holds a PhD in Library and Information Science, and he's also qualified UGC NET. He further improved his skills by completing specialized courses, including on research data management and sharing from the University of North Carolina, information security, context and introduction from the University of London, and technical writing from Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. He is also has a role at IIT Delhi, encompasses significant responsibilities, including managing the Electronic Resource Division, ERD, research support services and outreach programs, and many others. Dr. Verma's interest spans across electronic resource management, research data management, information security, open access, and the application of new technologies in libraries. He actively contributes to the advancement of knowledge dissemination, and he is very much showing it today, demonstrating it very loud and clear that he believes in the knowledge dissemination. He believes in knowledge sharing, sharing his own knowledge, not of others, but his own very knowledge that he has been able to acquire with his great amount of practice and diligence, promoting open access initiatives and fostering a culture of research data management and security within the academic institutions. Profound, pleasure in welcoming you once again, Dr. Vijay, to today's platform. And well before I pass the baton to Dr. Vijay, just a very quick poll question that we would like to ask each one of you. And The first question is appearing on your screens, and here it comes. Have you been aware about electronic resource management? Have you been aware about electronic resource management? We request you, please do kindly come forward and give us your candid reply. Please do kindly come forward and give us your candid reply on this. Have you been aware about electronic resource management? How many of you, because as we could see that today is a day, we have our library and information science professionals who are there today on this platform. We also have our computer science and IT professional colleagues who have been able to join us. Please come forward. The more faster you do, the more easier it would be to get the real session started. So 38% of you have voted, requesting you help us in acquiring at least a 50% of the voting should count, so that we are able to gather some good picture, about, that how well have you been, knowing about the electronic resource management in the libraries. 45% of you have voted, and let me disclose the findings. 84% of you have opined that yes, you have been knowing about it, though at the same time 16% of you have shown ignorance that no, you have not been. So I think it's a time for us that this session, this webinar would really help you in doing. And the other question that I'm just again posing it to each one of you is, have you ever explored open source software Coral? How many of you have really tried your hands? There may be a few of you who have done it. There maybe it's not. We just want to know, because it's a huge big group. Right now, as we could notice, we have 624 attendees which are there. We do expect many of them more, as more than 2,000 have registered. Please do come forward and telling that, have you ever explored this open source software Coral, which is meant for electronic resource management, well before you decided to be here today. So let me disclose the findings, and I think this would be also important for Dr. Vijay to know about it. 47% of you have voted, and it's very astonishing to see 25% of you have that yes, you have explored this Coral software. It's really heartening to see that yes, 25% of you in some at some level you have really explored this particular software. There may be a few of you who are already have implemented it. Maybe perhaps later, once the session gets over, we would really be happy also to hear some success stories from our attendees. And 75% of you have said that no, you have never, tried your hands on the software. So thank you very much. And now is a moment for me. So, and this is to share with Dr. Vijay about the findings that it's a ratio like a 25% yes and 75%. So, and I think Dr. Vijay would be in a better position now to conduct, because that where our attendees are coming from, and that would give us ample opportunities to explore the most unventured, things about the software. So I don't want to stand any further between you and Dr. Vijay, and I would now like to request Dr. Vijay to kindly start the proceedings of this wonderful afternoon. It's over to you, Dr. Vijay.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thanks, Sangeeta, ma'am. And it's really wonderful to know that 25% of the participants know and explore the Coral. I'm just sharing my screen. Ma'am, have the permission for sharing be allowed to me? Yeah. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Very perfect.
Yeah, good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this session of Coral and open source electronic resource management system. I am grateful to Delnet and Dr. Sangeeta ma'am for giving me this opportunity, and for wonderful introduction by Sangeeta ma'am and Dr. Nabi Hassan sir. In this session, we will be covering electronic resource management, because since we are going to discuss about electronic resource management system, then we should know what is electronic resource management is, and what are the different issues faced by the institutions while managing electronic resources. I have done a survey of centrally funded technical institutions, CFTIs, across India, except IIMs, and I have a very result which show that how the institutions are managing their electronic resources and what are the different issues faced by them. Then we'll have a brief overview about ARMS, so what should be, why we need electronic resource management system, what should be the feature of a good electronic resource management system. Then we'll have the overview of the Corel, which is an open source electronic resource management system, and then we'll be discussing the implementation of Corel in our library, in Central Library IIT Delhi. And in last, I'll be covering a few takeaway or guideline for those who want to implement Corel in their library. As we know, why we're talking about this topic, why we're talking about electronic resources and their management, because there is a great shift in publication industry. If you see, more than 95% publications across science and technology and 85%, more than 85% across humanities are published in e-format. Since the publication are in E, then their management is something which is different from the print. We should know how to manage them. Across the world, more than 80% of the expenditure which were done by the library on procurement of the resources are on electronic resources. A huge sum of the budget is being spent by the libraries across the world on the procurement of electronic resources. But the nature of electronic resources is something different from the print resources. Hence, their management is different, and the literature suggests that libraries across the world are not following all the steps which are required to manage electronic resources. With the evolution of electronic resources, with the more sharing of electronic resources in the libraries all over the world, basically mostly in Western countries, tries to develop their own local electronic resource management system, but those locally developed electronic resource management system were not able to manage the workflow of electronic resource. Hence, they moved from local developed ERMS to paid ERMS. But the commercial ERMS is very costly. Hence, it's not possible for every library to subscribe it and to use it for their electronic resources. In that scenario, Corel came into the picture in 2010, and basically Corel having all the functionalities which can be used for the management of electronic resources. You see, there is a proliferation of resources in the library. Basically, when we see the greater budget are being spent by the library in the procurement of the electronic resources, the reason is that because of the shifting in publication, most of the publishers are now shifted their publication strategy from print to E, and this led to change in acquisition policy of the library, because many of the resources are not available in print, they are available in E. That's the reason why library are acquiring more and more resources. And of course, we know there are various advantages of electronic resources over print resources, although pros and cons are with both. But because of the information explosion, because of bring your own device because of the ICT, information and communication technology, because of the portable devices. Now it's easier for the libraries, easier for the users to use the electronic resources. That's the reason why there is proliferation, there is much acquisition of electronic resources by the library all over the world. If you see the characteristics of electronic resources, because it's very important to know the characteristics of electronic over print, because electronic resources are something for which we have access to. They are not mostly they are not in the physical domain, like as we see in case of the books. They come in the various formats, they are come in the various types, and their access is governed by certain terms and conditions, and those legal terms and conditions are known as the license agreement. All these types of complexities were not in case of print resources. In case of the print resources, we just, based on the recommendation, we buy it, we put in the library, after processing, user come, issue, return, circulation, then preservation, write-off, like thing. But the life cycle of electronic resources is very much complex. The complex nature of life cycle of electronic resources, it forced the library to manage it properly, because non-managing it properly led to different types of problem which we face, and it does not seems that we are getting proper return on investment. Hence, due to the complex life cycle and the other complexities involved in electronic resources, the management of electronic resources is very much important. Now, when we talk about management of electronic resources, as Sangeeta ma'am in the earlier poll question 1, as you, most of you are aware that what is electronic resource management. But in my view, our awareness about the electronic resource management is very limited. Why I'm saying so, that what we think that the management of electronic resources covers only the acquisition, renew, and the access. But when we talk about the management aspect of electronic resources, it is a bigger thing. The concept quite big, the scope is quite big. It's a bigger umbrella than what we think in our day-to-day life. And the management in the with the passing of time, I will show you how the management is one of the cumbersome process. When we see the management is basically the different practices which involved to manage the life cycle of electronic resource. Those practices starts from investigation and ends at preservation. Hence, when we talk about electronic resource management, it covers all the practices which involve around investigation, acquisition, implementation, evaluation, review, and preservation. I will be discussing all these things in a very brief, because we have to cover Corel and other aspects. But at least we should know what are the different aspects of electronic resource management. Then it would be better for us to understand how any electronic resource management system is being used to cover all these aspects of electronic resource management. Now, these are basically the different steps, and this is a life cycle, basically cyclic in nature, which starts from investigation and ends at preservation. And under different stages of life cycle of an electronic resource, different functions we are supposed to perform. I'm just going to discuss the important one. Like in case of investigation, When we want to acquire any resource in our library, we should know from whom we are going to acquire it, who would be our potential user. Then we come to know from whom we should acquire. We should go for the publisher, we go for the aggregator. We should also want to make whether this type of resource or the same resource is with us or not. For that, we go for the overlap analysis. Then if possibility is there, then we ask the publisher or aggregator, request the publisher or aggregator for the trial, so that we come to know about the features of the platform, feature of the resources, what type of functionalities are there, what type of platform is being used, whether the platform is user friendly or not. And we should document each and everything, because this is very much important in our decision to take whether to acquire the resource or not. So in this first life cycle of an electronic resource, which is investigation, we should do all these processes and make the proper documentation of the activities, record the activities what we do. Then the next steps come acquisition or acquiring of the resource. When we think that the resource what we are investigating for is good for the potential user of our institute, there is no overlap, platform feature and other features are good, then we go for the negotiation. After negotiation, we go for the negotiation for the pricing, we go for the negotiation for the license agreement, we order it, we acquire it. But before ordering, one of the most important aspect of management of electronic resources is signing of license agreement, because unlike print resource, we have the access of the electronic resources, and for that access we should have some terms and conditions. Under those terms and conditions, our access and other features are governed, and this is basically, this legal document in simple term is known as the license agreement. License agreement is the most important document for acquiring electronic resource, and there are different aspects which we have to see while signing license agreement. One of the important thing, there are various aspects, but some important things which I will cover in a minute is a license agreement should deal with the definition of site and user. Who are the users which are allowed to access the electronic resource? You know, publishers are very clever. They do not write everything in crystal clear. It's our responsibility to read in between the line, and we should have certain specific clarity for everything, whether it's our current registered user, whether the access would be provided to walk-in user also, whether the access would be given to alumni also. All these things should be there. We should have the jurisdiction clause, where in case of any legal complexities, where would be the jurisdiction, whether it would be the country of origin of the resource or whether it would be the jurisdiction of India. That should be there. We should always try that the jurisdiction should be our country, it shouldn't be the country of origin. And in IIT Delhi, in 95% cases, the license agreement which we signed, we successfully met the negotiation with the publisher and the service provider to make the jurisdiction here. Similarly, we should have some points which deals about the post termination access. For example, in case of book, when we buy a print book, it is forever with us unless and until we write off it. But in case of electronic resources, what would happen if we are not going to subscribe it next year, and if the resource is not perpetual? then it's very important that the post-termination access clause, post-cancellation access clause should be there. Would there any platform fee involved for getting the access, and all these things. One of the most important things which I want to highlight here, that there should be no indemnification. When we talk about indemnification, that means the license agreement shouldn't be partial to any party. It shouldn't be partial to licensee also, licensor also. It should be balanced in nature. So these are some of the important points which we have to see while signing license agreement in the second step of acquiring. Now, once we acquire the resource, then we go for the implementation process, in which we provide the access to our user through our catalog, through a discovery tool, and other mechanism, A to Z list and other thing. We check the URL, we check the counter compliance, whether the resource is counter compliance or not, and by that way we should have a mechanism to take the feedback from the user, whether the person or the user is getting, or in case of any difficulty, he or she should come to the library. Then during the process, because we subscribe the resource usually for a year, during the process we evaluate the resources continuously. It's a general belief that when you acquire the resource, then our duty is over. In my opinion, it's not. Our duty starts after acquiring the resources. It isn't over. So throughout the period of our subscription, we constantly evaluate the resource. We should find out whether there be downtime. What the downtime? Downtime is the time for which the resource is not available for the user for the access. If there be any problem with the accessing of the resource or not, what's the user feedback? All these things we do in our evaluation stage of life cycle of electronic resources. Then we go for review. Once the period is complete, the subscription period going to complete, then we have to take the decision whether we have to continue this resource or cancel it. Cancellation and continuation of the resource depends upon the various points, in which the budget is one of the important aspects apart from the feedback from our stakeholder. But if we want to cancel, then we should have the provision in our license agreement to see how to preserve it. How to preserve, that means can you preserve in our local server? How do you get the access after cancellation? If we are going to renew it, then most of the processes which we already discussed would be we are going to repeat it. Like we have to see the license agreement again, because in many cases there is a terms change in terms of license agreement. In our case, we see in most of the license agreement, publisher cleverly insert one or two lines. And if you are ignoring it, that would be a great trouble in future. Hence, the license agreement, revision of license agreement is important. Then we see what's the price hike, is there any DRM been put by the publisher or not. All these things we see while reviewing our resources. And when we cancel it, then we have to see our license agreement provision. What's the provision for the preservation? What the provision for post cancellation access? We have to see logs, clocks, whether publisher is a part of logs, clock or Portico or not, through which we can get the continuous access after cancellation. Now, after brief discussion about the different aspect of electronic resource management, I hope that it would be helpful for you. Now, the global scenario is that most of the electronic resources, digital development is a source of anxiety and uncertainty. And in case of global scenario, the library management system and LSP, they are not able to manage electronic resources. If you see our Indian scenario, so in India, libraries are using multiple systems for electronic resource management, and only 2 CFTA are using ERMS, a few modules of ERMS. Now, In Indian scenario and the globally also, libraries all over the world are facing different problems. There is existence of many standalone systems for the management of electronic resources. There is a scattered communication. There is no metadata available for licenses. There is overlapping of licenses, resources. For all these things, the libraries in India, they are saying that the management of electronic resources is different from print, and significant time is involved in the management of electronic resources. In the survey of 70 libraries, 95% libraries says that it's a different from print, and most of the libraries say that their time is involved. And what are the main reason for not using ERMS is cost is one of the major important reason for which libraries are not using electronic resource management system. Now, when we talk about electronic resource management system, it's a system that enables organization to manage life cycle of acquired electronic resources. We have already seen the life cycle. There are different life cycle, and any electronic resource management system should have capability to manage it. Why we need it, we have already seen, since it's a complex process, life cycle management of electronic resources, huge amount of budget is involved, hence we need electronic resource management system. Now, when we talk about ERMS, then good ERMS should have the following core capabilities. It should be modular. It should manage the custom workflow of electronic resource. Is preferably be web-based, and it can give the different level user permission through which the electronic resources can be managed. And Coral is one of the most important ERMS which is available in open source and having all these functionalities, core capability, which I discussed in my previous slide. Coral, as the name stands, is centralized online resource acquisition and licensing. It's an open source electronic resource management system. It's developed by Hesburgh Library or at the University of Notre Dame. And the first model of Coral was released in 2010, and it was the licensing model. And these are the 5 interoperable model of Coral: resources, licensing, organization, user state, and management. And in all these 5 model is a user, a library can manage the electronic resources life cycle efficiently. If you see the different module and the module overview of Coral, the resources module, as the name indicates, provides workflow management from the initial request of the resource to the acquisition process, ongoing support, billing, sending the bill to the account section, emailing to the publisher, and other maintenance activities. That means all the activity related to the acquisition and its related activities of an electronic resource can easily be managed by using resources module of Coral. Licensing can store and provide access to the digital license. It can create the metadata of the license. We can compare the different expressions of the license. We'll be seeing in next slides. In organization module of Coral, we can manage all the contact, all the account information at one place. User stat can provide counter 5 compliance user statistics, and management model, which is a separate one, it can store all the informations which are relevant to us, our local file and other information. Now, for using Coral, it's very important to design our workflow locally, because every library having the different way of working. with electronic resources. And for that, Coral is very much flexible for the designing of workflow, and workflow can be designed as per the requirement of the library using Coral. In case of organization model, the Coral organization model help in managing contacts and account. We have been procuring electronic resources from the various publishers. We maintain Excel file in which we put the name of the publisher, contact number, contact person. It's very cumbersome for us to find out at the time of requirement. Here in Coral, we should have the record of every organization from which we are getting our e-resources. This module comes with the detail of all the major publisher by default, and it has a very good search functionality. We can add new organization in Coral. If you are going to add some new organization, then we have the provision. We can click on add new organization, and through which you can put the different type of information which you require. Even we can make all these fields customized as per our requirement. It is a very good parent-child relation also. For example, certain organization X having different name, like in case of Elsevier having the parent company of RELX, so parent would be RELX and the Elsevier would be the child relation. So that's the important feature here we can add. This is searchable also. While adding new organization, once we add it, then we can further put the detail of that organization in Coral. We can put the contact, we can put the issues, we can put the license about the resource which we are subscribing from that particular publisher or that particular organization, and this license directly can be fetched from the licensing module. These are the different workflow of organization module of Coral, in which the organization can be added, can be updated, login detail can be there, update of the organization can be there. We can add alias also. For example, American Chemical Society alias is ACS. That means if you are searching with the ACS or the American Chemical Society, you can get the result. It will be easier for us to see. If you are finding any problem with a particular resource, for example, if you are checking the URL of the resource, if URL is not working, if there is downtime, you can put the error there, you can add the issue, you can directly send the mail to the resource provider, and the issue can be tracked. What are the potentials of an organization model of Coral can do? All the information, contact information can be at a place. There is a issue reporting facility, is a parent-child relation, alias-less feature, and the powerful search. That means while using the organization module of Coral, every organizational detail of a particular publisher, aggregator, vendor can be at one place. The issue can be directly reposted, issue can be tracked. So instead of sending multiple email to multiple people multiple time, it's very easy for us to do all these activities using this particular model of Coral. Similarly, in case of resource model, it helps in managing the resources workflow. When we acquire resources having the different workflow before acquisition, because we want to get it trial information can be added here. We want to negotiate with the publisher, that step can be added here. The major publisher are already in default in our organization model. We have already added it. So it fetch the information from there about the publisher, and we can add new resources. Under new resources, there are different fields you can create. One of the beauty of Coral is that all these fields, whatever we are seeing here, like name, description, provider, URL, alternative URL, format, etc., All these are customizable. You can develop your own workflow. You see, if you are putting the resources, new resources, as much as detail you want to add, you can add here. This is not possible in case of the general, in case of any LMS like thing, because LMS is basically meant to manage print resources. Here we can add new resource. Under new resource, we can put the different field, the different description, what do you want basically. And once the resources is added, then other fields like you see product acquisition, access, cataloging, contact, everything are highlighted here. That means you can go further in depth to order the resource, to do different acquisition process of the resource. You put what's the mean of access, whether the resource is accessed by IP is plus IP plus password, or is there any VPN type of access is there, or if the resource is remotely accessible using CBLF and OpenFNS, whatever. So all these fields are enabled, and you can add those information, those pieces of information under the different field. Like order, you can put your order number, you can put your budget, and everything. You can put your from where you're getting it. Is it a resource from the consortium, or are you getting it through using it or purchasing it by using your own fund? And every detail would be here. Here, important function is that you can, we have subscribed the resource for a year. You can make the enable alert, and it will send the notice to you that when the resource is going to expire. Sometimes it's happened that some publisher having written in their license agreement that you are supposed to give 90 days or 45 days or 30 days notice before renewal. Otherwise, the license would be auto-renewed like thing. So that type of enable alert can also be, you can fix in the order detail and here in the resources module. Similarly, in the acquisition detail, you can put the currency, what's the amount, what type of resource is it there, whether the licensing has been complete for this or not, or is ongoing. Every detail can be added here. Now, once you add the resource, then before payment and sending the bill to the account, we need to sign license agreement. We need to see and validate the terms and conditions on which we are going to acquire the license. We are going to acquire the resources, electronic resources. Hence, from here we switch to licensing module to complete the licensing formality. That means what? Here we are moving from one module to another module, and every module having different person to operate it. That means different people having the right to, one people having the right to do the acquisition, one other can have the right to do the licensing and other thing. Under licensing, once we have put the acquisition detail of the resource, now in licensing we can have our licensing provision. Corel having a very good licensing feature, is a very good model because it was the first model which released in 2010, and many development have took place in this model. So this particular model, in licensing model of Corel, we can store the digital copy of the active and expired license. We can create the metadata. We can create the metadata of the license to see what are the different types of features or different types of condition are in the different license agreement of the publisher. For the examples, once you upload the license agreement, digital copy of the license agreement, then it will see when the license agreement is going to be effective, when the license agreement would going to be expire, and after that you can have feature to add the expression. When I talk about the adding of expression, that means who is the user. That means every publisher having different definition of user. For example, Wiley will having the different definition. Wiley allows the alumni to or working user to get access of the resource, but some other publisher doesn't allow. So accordingly, we have to put the expression of the license agreement. What is the site, who is the user, what is the access provision, whether the discovery integration is allowed in the license agreement or not, what would be the post termination access clause, whether any platform fee is needed after the cancellation of the resource or not. All these type of information can be added under different expression type, and you can create as many as expression type as you want. And once you add the expression, then you can compare the expression. For example, you see, I have compared here I have added here the access type, authorized user, confidentiality clause, and this would be the different with the different publisher. And if I am selecting just for the example, who is the authorized user, here I have selected authorized user. So the definition of authorized user from ICE agreement and the Wiley agreement is being displayed here. That means instead of going back to refer our paper agreement, paper license agreement time by time, we can have every detail here, and by that way, on the fingertip, we can come to know what are the different provisions of different publisher in a license agreement. And this is one of the most powerful feature of Coral, because by enabling this feature, you can have all these expression at one place, and will be able to find out the answer at a particular question. Similarly, we are comparing the expression with the different publisher. We can add the attachment. For example, sometimes it happens that license agreement is signed, but before signing the agreement, we have a lot of communication with the vendor on particular terms and conditions. All those type of communication which we fit is essential, is important, we can put as an attachment. We can have the copy of the attachment here. There'll be no worry about the mail, and it's very tough for find out at the time of when the time comes to find some communication. We just go through our mail, sometime we find, sometime we not find, but now here everything would be at our fingertip. Once the licenses is added, then we again come to our resources model to complete the other functionality like access, cataloging, contact, and other detail. We can edit the licenses also. Access can be put, what type of access would be there. The contact information is directly fetched from our organization model, in which we have already put it. Account information would be there. You can report the issues, what type of issues is there. For example, at the time of review, at the time of renew of any resource, while we're reviewing it for the renew or cancellation, then we should have all these problems at a place. We should know when the resources were down for the access, what type of issues faced by our user, whether there was a break in URL given by the publisher or not, whether there were disturbance in remote access or not. So all these issues can be reported, and we have a handy report at the time of renewal of our resources, so that we'll be in the better position to deal with the publisher, and it would be good for us to have this trendy report with us. As I already told that issues, if there be any with the report, can be added. The email can be sent to the publisher, the resolution, their reply can be received, and all these functionalities are available with Coral. You see, when we are using any electronic resource management system, our motive is to make our process smooth. Our motive is to save our time. All these pieces of functionalities, all these features, what Coral is giving to us, definitely making our process smooth and saving our time a lot. We can put the downtime, we can put the attachment. There are various advantages or potential a resource module can do. It streamlines the selection and acquisition workflow of electronic resource. It support the work distribution. As I have already told, that we can have the different group of users having the different work assigned to them. The work can be assigned, work can be monitored, and it's easier to complete a particular workflow of an electronic resource. Is flexible, it can be customizable locally, as I told, and it's streamlined communication, because you are not supposed to communicate with the publisher and vendor using multiple channels, so you can do it. Similarly, licensing model having various potential, like one of the most important thing I told you, that we can create our own expression, we can have our digital copy at one place, we can track and compare the licenses terms, which is very much essential. Similarly, in the management model, whatever the important communication with us, we can put here at one place in management model. The management model is basically to put all this communication at one place and to customize the workflow of electronic resource. Similarly, usage stat model, you see, usage statistics is one of the important aspects when we discuss about electronic resource, because the usage stat depends upon our decision to renew an electronic resource or not. We get counter 5 compliance usage statistics here with the integration of SUSE, and we can get usage stat of all the resources by integrating every publisher. Most of the publishers, big publisher, have given us a URL as a SUSE administrator. By using that URL, we can fetch the usage statistics from Coral, and it can be available at a particular place. Now, when I ask the institution all over India, that means the survey which I conducted, the CFTI, 82 CFTI except IAMS, 70 have responded, and 90% of them, 90%, that means 37% are willing to use Coral, and 53% say maybe. So maybe I'm also taking maybe as yes. So that means the 90% of them are willingness to use ERMS Coral. You see, they are willing to use ERMS Coral because cost was one of the important factor, one of the barrier by which they are not using any ERMS. Now Coral having no cost, open source, they are willing to use ERMS. Now come to our story, because we have paucity of time. I'll be covering in 10-15 minutes, then we'll go for the question answer. While in implementing Coral in our library, you know, IIT Delhi library is a system of library in which there is a main library and 36 department library. We have more than 79,000 electronic resources, comprising 30 databases and more than over 9,000 ebooks. Huge money is being spent by us on electronic resources, and we are using LMS Coral, Koha, library management system Koha here in IIT Delhi for managing our print resources. So when I joined this section in 2020, and we saw what are the different practices which we are following before implementation. Of course, whatever the global trend, we had the same we are on the same flow. Multiple systems are being used by us for electronic resource management, more consumption of time. Not all the electronic resource management workflow is being practiced. Main emphasis was on the order and renewal, but as we have seen that it's a bigger umbrella than the order and renewal. We don't have any metadata because every time we have to consult our paper license to see if we want to go for anything. A scattered communication, we use 2 or 3 email ID. Those email ID being used to communicate with the publisher. It was very much time, because in e-resources management, the communication takes more than 30-35% time. Is a global study, and we are also, as a part of the system, I also feel that there are multiple issues being faced by us. Then when we, with the permission of our librarian, so when we tries to implement why we should go for ARMS, why we should implement Coral, then we had some wish list, because we wanted to make our process smooth. We wanted to practice complete ER workflow. So these are some of the points which we considered before ERM implementation. We wish that it would overcome many standalone system. Our ER workflow will improve. The potential gap between the different section of workflow will get filled. There would be a particular place for every type of information we have. We can have a centralized communication and other things, and of course we don't want to spend a single pie. That's the reason we choose Coral. Now the question comes, because there are some other 1 or 2 open source software also, ERMS also, but why we choose Coral? Basically, the reason behind choosing Coral, because Coral was one of the tested product of many libraries in the world. In Western country, many libraries are being used. I communicated with some of the librarians there, those who are responsible for electronics management, and received the positive feedback. Coral having the modular structure is a simple web interface, can highly be customizable, very good search functionality. All these features of Coral, we thought that it would be good to implement, or at least try to get implemented Coral in our library. For implementation plan, we had 3. One of my LIA Charu, and one intern that time who was working with us, Mr. Arvind, who was there. Mr. Arvind, having the computer background, he had done his BCA, so some of the help for the installation and other part we get from there. And Charu and me basically design our workflow and what should be added in the different section of that thing. Mr. Bhupender was also here with me, and we work as a team to move further. We work on the detailed workflow of electronic resource, because this is most important thing, because you can easily install the system. Installation of system is not important, because once you get the system installed or implement, that the sustainability and taking maximum output from the system is very much important. So we discuss on the detailed workflow, then we discuss on the customization, naming a structure. We decided what are the different expression we have to add in our license module of Coral, so that it would be easier for us to search the required thing. And we tested the functionality, and then we put the data and tested the different workflow again and again before making it to use it as live. The prerequisite for Coral, the version which we installed was 2020.09. we downloaded from GitHub. PHP 5.5 and above was needed for that. MySQL, Apache is needed, and very little requirement like CPU, 20 GB hard disk, and all that other thing are required. In our case, we have our Badal system on cloud, IIT Delhi on cloud. So we took a machine from there, and we hosted Coral on our Badal cloud, and some customization we did for IIT Delhi. The earlier Coral page, which we saw in, which I discussed in the previous slide. Now for IIT Delhi, we customize a bit, and it looks like that. And some of the problem we faced, and with the help of people who having the knowledge of computer science, we try to overcome the problem, and ultimately the system was implemented in our library. Now, after implementation, as I mentioned that we had some wish list before implementation of Coral. After implementation, most of the things, most of the wish list we thought fulfilled. The central library now are in the better position to manage the life cycle of e-resources. We have a few standalone system, almost nil standalone system. The required information is retrieved very fast. Now it's not depends upon one person. Now the job is assigned between 2 or 3 people who are working in the section, and they are doing their work. We are in the process of loading the digital copy of license agreement, signed license agreement there. We are also in the process of creating the different expressions. In many cases we have created, and somewhere it's a regular process, because the electronic, we have the license agreement starting from 2004 onwards, starting from the INDEST onwards. We are going backward direction. We are putting the license agreement of 2023, 22, and that way we are moving it, adding the expression. And we surprised to see that there are, with the passing of time, there is a change in the term and condition in the license agreement by vendor, and ultimately it the implementation of ARMS Coral effect on the overall functionality of our section, and it the section become more efficient, and we are able to manage in more efficient way as compared to our previous practice. Since you see improvement is an ongoing process, we are still working on that. We are in the process, as I told you, we are in process of complete license metadata digitization and metadata creation. We are in the also process to improve our workflow, because you see, nature of electronic resources are changing. The publication model is changing. Now we have a different publication model. We are many of the publishers are moving towards open access. In open access, reading would be free, but with the passing of time, we are supposed to pay article processing fee. That means from paying for the reading nowadays, what we are doing over the period of time, we will be paid for publishing. So by that way, our workflow of electronic resources has also been changed. So we have to keep in mind, we have to keep our workflow in such a way that it can be changed, it can be improvement with the changing feature of electronic resources. We are in the process of setting up the automatic email configuration, and you see, now there is a provision to integrate Coral with Koha also. There is a provision for Coral Koha integration. We haven't explored it, but we wish to explore, and if there be some possibility for which the positive outcome would be there, then definitely we'll be going for that. Now, every system, open source system, having some pros and cons. Coral definitely is not the panacea of everything. It also lacks in some aspect, as in case of Koha having a very strong user community, but Coral, they don't have very strong user community. Most of the user community of Coral is based in US and some European country. So we have to contact them. Sometime we get a late reply from them. So Coral lacks in a strong user community. There is lack in the frequent release of new version, and it lacks in the adaptation by Indian libraries. That one of the reason what I think for lacking of adaptation by Indian library, that we think that electronic resource management consists only the renew, ordering, and other thing, but it goes beyond that. We should have to think, then in that case, it definitely many of the libraries will adopting it for their betterment, for the better management of electronic resources. Now, if you want to plan Coral for your library, first of all, you define whether you need it or not, because if a library having a very few e-resources, it's subscribed, which can easily be manageable 10, 15, 20 resources. So you have to think whether it is required. Even it's not required, then it's my humble request that you can explore it, explore for the learning purpose, explore to see what are the features it can offer. You also want, if you want to implement in our library, define what you want to accomplish with implementation of it. What's your current practice of ARMS? What do you want to achieve, and how Coral will help you to get it achieved? And based on that, from the planning to practical, you can make the assessment of your system, manpower, what are the different models, because it's not necessary that you implement all the models, because a standalone model of Coral can also be implemented. All the model of Coral can also be implemented, and you decide what you want to do. You test with your data and do the actual implementation and launching. That's the important. These are some of the important links from where the Coral can be downloaded. The documentation is there. Coral steering committee team is there. Some videos are there. Already I have mentioned it here. Some of the references. I am thankful to Dr. Nabi Hassan sir and the people who work with me, Ms. Charu, Bhupender, and Arvind, who helped for the implementation. Thanks everyone for your kind attention, and for any query, you can write me, you can contact me at vkverma@thelibrary.it.ac.in. Thank you. Thanks for your patience hearing, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay, for a very exhaustive deliberations that you had. And in fact, you have really opened up much of more discussions, which are definitely going to follow, because everyone has truly felt inspired enough. And this was highly knowledgeable session. You have let the people to know that what are the various potentials of the software for implementation, and even the findings, the survey that you have conducted, that's really something wonderful to see, that Indian libraries and our professionals have to come a long way in making it a reality in their own libraries. My one quick question, Dr. Vijay, before we make the floor open, one or two things I think you may like to speak about. Number one is definitely that how they can go for the installations, because I could see in the chat box there are messages coming in and they just want to know a little bit about the installation. Little bit, if you can just scan, we have a little time, maybe for 5-7 minutes, if we can talk about. And other thing was that how about the merging of the metadata, of the various e-content? because it does have an interface for the merging of the metadata, that is, of the varied publishers, and then through the front end that you have a resource discovery. Have we done anything in that particular on that particular front? Like, for example, CUFT. I don't know whether you have explored CUFT also, because CUFT and the Coral are the two major ones. That is from Simon Fraser University from Canada. Yeah, and because that also has got, that's again one of the other very major big ARM which is being used. But whether in Coral, does we have a provision for the merging of the metadata? That is of the varied publishers, the published metadata of the journal articles, for example. Because right now the other issue in ARM remains that a user has to go, you're subscribing to 5 different publishers and a user goes to 5 different. So it's like harvesting the metadata of them together, because they give you the data sets now, the publishers, and then having the platform, you're merging it, because that's again one of the very major part of any of the ARM solution. So just wants to know from you whether in Coral do we have a provision of doing so?
Thanks, ma'am. Basically, in Coral, we don't have article level indexing data provision. That means you don't have the merger of the article level data, but at the journal level indexing, they have the EBSCO knowledge base, EBSCO KB. The EBSCO knowledge base having many journals level data are available, and we can easily import EBSCO KB to the Coral. But the article level indexing, as we see in case of any discovery services, like discovery services having the agreement with the publisher, and we have the integration of article level metadata so that the user can easily search all those content at one place. This type of feature, as I know, is not possible in Coral.
It's not there. Okay. Okay. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay. And would you like to throw some light onto this installation part? The general, questions which are coming in is also to know that what is a kind of a hardware that they have to, need to have. Though you had shown that slide, one particular slide was there, and but we could see that.
Yeah, ma'am, please. Actually, for the installation of Coral, no much hardware and software required. You only need operating system, which we here in IIT Delhi, we are using Ubuntu. Ubuntu is any Unix operating system would be okay. Here we are using Ubuntu, and Apache server you should have. Like those libraries who have installed DSpace or who are working with DSpace. So whatever the requirement of DSpace, there is less requirement of DSpace as compared in case of Coral. So we should have OS like Ubuntu, you should have PHP, you should have Apache Tomcat, nothing else, and some minimum basic requirement configuration of computer for the server like 8 GB RAM and CPU, some hard disk like thing, nothing more, man. Nothing more required.
Perfectly fine. I could see that, Dr. Vijay. It's been, the chat box has all been getting flooded with the questions. Large number of questions which are being there, and that clearly indicates the interest that you have been able to generate through your such a wonderful deliberations that you have done, and that's simply remarkable, because I could see there are large number of questions, because we would just like to clarify to all our colleagues here who are there on this platform that Coral is an open source software. There's nothing like a renewal, because I could see that number of them, they're asking that, what is the renewal? Can we renew it next year? And Dr. Vijay, you may like to clarify once again to them.
Yeah, basically, as in my presentation, I told Coral is an open source electronic resource management system, which is developed in 2004 by University of Notre Dame. The licensing was the first model which was developed. Coral is still in the open source platform. You are not supposed to renew it. You can download it from GitHub. I have already given some that one, the link from where we can get it downloaded. You can get it download, you can install, you can play, you can change the code. So as in commercial software, nothing required to be renewed, nothing to be paid. It's an open source like Koha.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Vijay. I could see that there are, I believe that this looks to us that we may like to have. I think, before we make the floor open for questions, it would be in fitness of things that we may ask one question, that is a question which is getting flashed on the screens. And would you like Delnet to organize a more comprehensive training? We may like to join hands all together, with IIT Delhi to see to it that we are able to do some comprehensive training program. So we just request you to come forward and tell us, would you like, Delnet to undertake in collaboration with IIT Delhi, and to have some kind of a very, detailed kind of an hands-on training program on Coral. Please do come forward, and that is to strengthen your initiatives for implementing the ERM solutions in your respective libraries. And this is truly heartening to know. And I would just like to convey to Dr. Nabi Hassan and also to Dr. Vijay the findings of this survey, which has, in a very convincing manner, has conveyed to us that everyone, 99% of our attendees have felt that yes, there is a need for a very comprehensive training on Coral. And Dr. Vijay, we compliment you for such a highly enriching talk. You have made everyone know about it, that what is the potential of Coral, inspiring them also at the same time, our professional colleagues. We would just like to make the floor, open for questions, because I know that many of our colleagues here would like to directly interact with you and to pose the questions. This is to just inform, we have 10 minutes with us for the questions, making the floor open for questions. And please kindly raise your digital hand, and we will be more than happy to give you a control. Please try to see that we don't duplicate our questions, and this is to ensure that we have some very unique deliberations happening and let everyone get benefited out of it. But one of the messages that you have conveyed to the organizers is definitely that you are wanting that more detailed kind of a workshop. This has been a webinar to sensitize you, to make you aware, but we could notice that you are being entrusted to know more about this in detail, and so that you get help for its implementation. Dr. Vijay, we'll just like to take 10 minutes more of yours, and we would like to pass on now. We are just quickly now moving across for the questions. This is for B. Kavita. I would be able to only request you once because of paucity of time, and there are a lot many colleagues who are wanting to ask. This is for you. This is for B. Kavita. Kavita, you have raised your hand. If you want to ask question, unmute yourself. It seems I have to go, because after that we will just quickly move to the chat box and take the questions from there. So this is for Damodaran PG. Mr. Damodaran PG, you have raised your digital hand, requesting you to unmute yourself and ask your question. Damodaran PG, could you please let me just lower everyone's hand? If by mistake you have done it, I have lowered everyone's hand, and if you have any questions, please raise your digital hand now. I'm lowering the hands of everyone because I don't foresee that we would be able to. It seems that everyone here has one question or the other, Dr. Vijay, to ask you. It's a very challenging situation being in organizers, because as we have still at this moment around 700 participants who are being there, and Mr. Jairaj JR, we would be, let's see that how many can we take. Mr. Jairaj JR, please raise up. You may ask your question. Mr. Jairaj JR, I think they're not able to. We request you, please post your question in the chat box. We won't get it connected on an audio because we could see that there are large numbers. Please post your question in the chat box, and we may like to take the question from there. The question about how can we get a recording, Dr. Vijay, we would like to put the recording of the deliberations on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I would be more than happy, ma'am, please.
Perfect. So that we are going to do it by tomorrow. So please ensure that we are going to do. Can we detect the downtime of e-resources in Coral? This is from Jairaj JR. Dr. Vijay, would you like to mention?
Okay. Thank you, Jairaj. The downtime of e-resources, that means for the time for which we don't have access of the e-resource. Sometimes it happens that due to some maintenance in the server of publisher, the publisher put a downtime alert that this particular resource won't be available from this to that particular hour. So that is basically known as the downtime. This is one of the way. Another, sometimes the publisher send us the URL, but that URL is not working. That can also be counted as downtime. This downtime can counted at the local level by the library. So downtime is generally basically the time for which we don't have the access of the resource, and that is very important while negotiating with the publisher, so that we should have the record of the downtime. This particular resource actually is not available for that much of hours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay. There has been a number of questions coming in about the help as a guide for installation of Coral. It's been getting flooded. Everyone wants to know, sir, are there any guidelines? Do you have, a set of commands?
Yeah, ma'am. We can share. We can have the code written, and we're happy to share if we share to Delnet or individually, whatever the way we can share to them, and they can try their own for installation part.
Exactly. Yes. I was just coming to that we would be really happy, means we will get into a conversation with IIT Delhi to, because already it has been done, and we'll be really happy to, pass on that knowledge. It's a knowledge sharing, and we can give you the very, it's like a guide, for the implementation of Coral in your respective institutions. It will be like a manual that you can refer to right from the installation, and also the other modules as being mentioned in detail by Dr. Verma. So we would be really happy to, come out and be, of any help to our institutions. I think that would be the best thing, if we can do that. Dr. Vijay and Dr. Nabi Hassan is here, and we would definitely like to get into a discussion on this, that how practically we can help our libraries in implementing, to this. We could see that, this is, but there are repetitions in a way that everyone is just wanting that how they can do that. There is a question from Dr. Jignesh Amin, that, saying that if I have added one e-journal in Coral for the year 23-24 and want to renew the same in 24-25, is it possible in Coral with history? That is, it is like the same journals which are being there, and then you are going to, it's not like, it is the period that you are going to change. As you showed that in the back end, the journals that you are going to make it once. And then Dr. Vijay, you may perhaps like to say something on this.
What I basically want to ask, that he has one journal, he has procured in 2022-23. He wants to renew it for the 2023-24. So
exactly,
whether the Coral method history.
Yeah, means he is wanting basically to know whether Coral will allow, means definitely you can renew it. Means renewal will always.
Yeah. And under renew, you can put, because when you are renewing the journal, you are putting other information, like you are sending your payment to the account, we are placing the order, if there be any change in the license agreement, we are uploading the license agreement. By that way, we are putting the different documentation of the Coral, and your back history, that means the history for the 2022-23 or the previous year, would be stored in Coral, and from there you can easily download the report. You can see the back. What I understand from his question, that's for my view.
No, this is a little, not so clear, but I think, he has been wanting to see whether he can renew it. Definitely you will be able to, because as, your journal and all the information, the publisher's information will be there for a particular year, and you want to do it for the next year, definitely this would be something. But one of the things I believe number of our colleagues are wanting, that there should be a session and hands-on session on the training for the installation. And I think we will start working, in this direction, definitely, because even Delnet is really very much wanting to have a very special series of webinars for the open source softwares. In anything which is of great relevance to the libraries and to the institutions, we may really like to, and we would like to collaborate with IIT Delhi Library, Dr. Nabi Hassan, Dr. Vijay, and other team members, and we'll see how best can we take the Coral implementations in the libraries. Because we could see that it's the same kind of in question everyone is wanting to know about it, and it seems that everyone is really wanting to know more about it, but because of currently the paucity of time, we are not in a position to further take it on. But definitely, we have opened up altogether new avenues for discussions, and interest it has been generated. Today's deliberations by Dr. Vijay is something truly much praiseworthy. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay, for sharing your such a good experience. We know that ourselves, sure, and this is what we would like to convey to our colleagues. We know that this requires a much more hand-holding. This requires more technical exposure. We need to technically show you, with the technicalities, how you really can implement it. But I think we have made a beginning today by making you aware, by holding this webinar session, to make you know that yes, there is an open source software, there is something. IIT is leading the way, they have already done it, and Dr. Vijay, in a very interesting manner, has also shown this entire life cycle of the ERM. It's not just simply subscribing, but also there are not many other issues which are, and which one should always keep the eyes open enough, and how this open source software can play a very important role in making it as a one stopover kind of a platform. We can assure each one of you that Delnet and IIT Delhi would really like to collaborate more further in making it possible for you to come forward and embracing this wonderful platform. And in the days to come, you can definitely think about having something coming from us, and this would be to strengthen your hands for the implementation of this. And as being indicated, we are going to put the entire deliberations of today's session onto the YouTube channel, so that you can have a look. And definitely, each one of you, please remain assured, in the days to come, we are going to tell you more specifically what all of you have desired, that how you really can do the installations, how you can explore these various features. We would be more than happy, to pass on, that further information to you. So thank you very much, Dr. Vijay, once again, for taking stupendous efforts of yours in apprising everyone about this wonderful platform. My very special thanks also to Dr. Nabi Hassanji. I would just like to request you, Dr. Hassan, if you may like to, give your concluding remarks to it, and thank you very much for your support as ever. And I think we need to really help our professional colleagues and institutions by running, maybe as a technology series, we may like to do some of the collaborative programs together. And also, it's not just simply the webinars, on the groundwork practically, that to bring in that transformation, helping each other, and it's also the learning from each other's experience, creating it as a best practices platform. Everyone, the success stories, let everyone speak their success stories, and each one of us gets benefited, because the purpose remains the same, to bring in that change, to bring in the way that we are doing the things. Requesting you, Dr. Hassan, once again to kindly give your concluding remarks, and also for the enormous support that you have provided to Delnet. Thank you so much indeed for always being of great strength to us. It's over to you, Dr. Hassan.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, I wish to acknowledge support from Delnet, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Sangeeta. She is very keen in hosting event on topics which are really not which are not very general. Those are very specific, and we need specific people to deliver on that. Last time we had a webinar which was on ranking, and there are not many specialists on ranking. So I think these are some of the initiatives that Dr. Sangeeta herself taking. Of course, Delnet is taking so many initiatives under her leadership, but I think she's always out of box. So I think one thing I can suggest the attendees is that if they really want to see the flow of ERMS or Coral, or if they want to like really understand, they have some technical issues, so they can set up a meeting with Dr. Beja. They can come to IIT Delhi library at a time convenient to us as well. And also, like, we have couple of other technical people uh, uh, who are like library science plus BTech as well, so they can also like complement what Dr. Beja has deliberated. Okay, so thank you very much, and hope to have another event soon on something new, something special, maybe on some chatbot, or maybe on application of AI in library operations, something like that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Surely, Dr. Hassan, yeah, I think, we may like to collaborate and, to have something on the technology trends. Because with IIT Delhi, I think, and at least like in a year, if we can plan out well in advance, maybe every quarter, at least to have one on it, emerging technology trends. And then out of that, some of them we may like to have it in-person kind of workshops, wherein we feel that yes, there's a greater and greater potential, and practically we are in a position to deploy that in our libraries. One is to broaden our vision, to let everyone knows about it, that what's being happening at a global level, and out of that, something that we know that yes, this is something doable, fairly by a huge large number of institutions. I believe that we can make a beginning in that direction too. So thank you very much once again, Dr. Hassan. Thank you very much, Vijay. And Dr. Hassan, this is from all of us, a small memento coming your way for always being of a great support to us. I look forward to having, and this is coming. This is for Dr. Vijay. Thank you very much for making this afternoon truly a knowledge enhancing and knowledge enriching afternoon. And as we could see that, the response from our colleagues across, they are getting represented, means all of them from different nooks and parts, not only of India, from many other countries. Yes, there is a very genuine concern that, to deploy this, we know that, the technology, you need to just invest in your time and efforts. It doesn't cost you anything. It's the only cost that involved is putting your sincere efforts for it. And we remain committed, both Delnet and IIT Delhi. We would really be wanting, to see to it that we take you to the next level from here. And would like to thank once again Dr. Nabi Hassan, Dr. Vijay, the entire colleagues there at IIT Delhi, and everyone, who has really made it possible for Delnet, to organize the session. And we convey our very sincere thanks to each one of you, because you inspire us. You always inspire us to keep on, organizing these sessions, and to keep on spreading, it's that the feeling of being connected together for a very common purpose, and to keep on, doing our best to see that we get into the most promising times, better times, for the libraries, for the professionals, all together. It's like walking together, working together, and marching ahead, for a very, very bright and better times. So thank you very much, one and all. It has been truly a pleasure being there, and we really look forward. You have given us ample opportunities to think about, implementing for the implementation of Coral libraries. Remain assured about it in the days to come. In few weeks to go, we will be really informing you and letting you know that how you can practically do these things. And we would even be happy to have some of the in-person programs. So thank you very much, one and all, and we really look forward to having you back again in the future webinars and these knowledge enhancing sessions. Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Dr. Hassan. Thank you, Dr. Vijay. I would also like to convey my thanks to my own colleagues, Mr. Kushal and also Mrs. Vanchana, for coordinating these sessions from Delnet. Thank you very much, each one of you, and God bless you. And we look forward to having you back again soon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
thank you, Dr. Hassan.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.